Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Cloud Skills Show. My name is Adam Jackson, and I am in the developer relations team at Microsoft. Now, on today's show, we've got a very special show planned for you. Today is all about JavaScript frameworks, and we're going to talk about a few different frameworks, explain what they all are, play a couple of videos, and meet some wonderful people from our community. So here is a brief preview of everyone that's coming up today. So first of all, we have Wasim Chegam and Johan Lasosa. They're from Microsoft Cloud Advocates, and they're based in France. And then we have Debbie O'Brien, who is a developer advocate at Nuxt.js and also a Microsoft MVP award recipient. And we have Ana Cidre, who is a developer advocate at Auth0. And both Debbie and Ana are based in Spain, different parts of Spain. You'll meet them all in just a short while. So before we get started with our show today, we are going to be meeting Johan and Wasim. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to play you a video, and this video is from our beginners series to Node.js. And this is a brand new series that's just started. It is on Channel 9 and also on YouTube, and we're going to be sharing the links while you're watching. But don't worry if you miss any of the links from today's show, because they're going to be available after the show at the link on screen, ak.ms/cs-s2e5. So here comes the first video, which is part of our beginner series to Node.js.
Hi everyone, my name is Johan and I'm a senior cloud developer advocate working at Microsoft. This is the first of a series of short videos for learning Node.js from the absolute beginning with a strong focus on practice. If you're a complete beginner to Node.js, that's a very good place to start. The only prerequisite is that you need to know the basics of JavaScript. So in case you also want to learn JavaScript, there's a link in the video description to a video series that's made just for that. If you don't know JavaScript at all, I really recommend that you start with JavaScript first and then come back to this Node.js video after. So back to this Node.js series. You can either follow all the video at once, like a full course, or just pick one or a few as you need. In every video, you'll find links to additional resources to follow, docs, tutorials, or GitHub repositories to help you improve your skills. And now to start with the main subject of this first video, let me introduce you my friend Wasim here.
Hi, I'm Wasim. I'm a senior cloud advocate here at Microsoft.
So Wasim, can you explain to us what's Node.js?
Node.js is a JavaScript runtime, which means that you can use it to run and execute JavaScript outside of the browser.
And what kind of applications can you build with it?
You can actually use Node.js to build server-side applications, CLI apps, web APIs, and even desktop applications using Electron. But Node.js is very popular in the IoT ecosystem, so you can use it to build JavaScript programs and deploy them on IoT boards, and the list goes on and on.
Then I'm wondering why you might need Node.js at all. Isn't there already a bunch of other tech that you can use exactly for that?
Of course, you can use any tools instead. But what is great about Node.js is that it's free and it's open source, and there is a huge open source community supporting the project. And because Node.js runs JavaScript, and JavaScript is an event-driven language, it makes it ideal to run IoT programs and even serverless APIs.
Oh, I love that. And also the fact that Node.js is also cross-platform, and that's also why I'm mostly using Node.js these days. Thank you, Wasim, and see you all in the next videos to learn about how to get started with Node.js.
That is amazing. So a huge welcome to Wasim and Johan today. And just to say, by the way, if my video is like not moving hardly at all, I'm seeing that too. So if, sorry about that, but I'll try and fix that while we're on the show. But first of all, it'd be great to Wasim and Johan for you just to introduce yourselves, and we'll go to Wasim first. And please introduce yourself and tell us about what you do at Microsoft.
Sure. Thank you, Adam. And thank you for inviting us. So yeah, my name is Wasim. I work at Microsoft on the Azure org. So I'm part of the JavaScript cloud advocacy team. Basically, we focus on JavaScript and the JavaScript community, hence the tools and also the videos we build around JavaScript and Node JS.
That's amazing. Sorry, I was struggling to get you to minimize. Great, and Johan?
Hi everyone, thanks Adam for inviting us to this show. So my name is Johan and I work in the same team as Wasim in the JavaScript advocacy team at Microsoft. And I love just doing about everything I can with JavaScript. That go from IoT apps to tinker with my desktop, with my lights that you can see behind me. That goes with web apps, obviously, and also I love doing command line tools with Node.js and all that sorts of things.
That's amazing, and I'm really jealous of the lights, and I'm just thinking I need to up my lighting game now as well. So yeah, you've inspired me to do stuff already. But why don't you and maybe inspire me a little bit about about JavaScript and Node JS. So I often say on this show, I'm actually a developer, so this gives me a great opportunity to ask you questions. From a beginner's perspective, and then and then of course we can make the conversation a bit more advanced later on. But we've got these, we've got this series for Node.js. There's also a beginner series to JavaScript as well, which I'll just share on the screen there, the link for that. But taking it like completely back to basics, like what's the difference between JavaScript and Node.js? Are they different programming languages? What's the difference between the language and the framework?
I can take that maybe. So yeah, basically, JavaScript is a programming language that you can use to write applications, web applications, or basically any kind of applications. Could be IoT programs that you run on any hardware on any device. It could be web applications that you run on your browser. It could be also even like running AI or machine learning models that you would train on any kind of platforms. So basically, it's a language, it's a programming language that you use to write apps. However, Node.js, on the other hand, is a runtime. This is what allows you actually to execute JavaScript on a specific platform. So on the browser, you have a JavaScript engine, which is there are like a couple of engines out there. So you use them to run JavaScript. And Node.js, you would use it to run JavaScript outside of a browser environment. So this could be on the server, this could be on an IoT device or board, and basically anywhere where you could install Node.js, which is today like almost anywhere. So yeah, JavaScript a language, Node.js, it's a runtime that executes JavaScript.
Amazing. And so why do we think that Node.js is important? I know that certainly the last few years in Microsoft, and I've been at Microsoft for a few years, I've heard a lot about Node.js. So for, let's say, for a large company, why should they be paying attention to Node.js rather than other technologies?
I can take this one. Because it speaks also for me when I started learning Node.js. Let me just start with JavaScript. As Wasim said, JavaScript is the first language used in browser. Everybody can run code in a browser because we all have a browser, whether it's on our laptops, on our tablets, or our smartphones. We all consume the web today. So the nice things about JavaScript is that it can really run everywhere. And with Node.js, the good thing is that there's already people that are learning web development. And I was in web development doing front-end applications before I started learning Node.js. And that's what got me interested. I already have these JavaScript skills, and I could use it to create new kinds of application and I couldn't do before because it was only code that used to run in a browser. But now I could take this code and run it basically everywhere on IoT boards. I can now use it to control my lights. As I said, I used it to create a lot of command lines tools that helps me in my everyday workflow. So that's for me, that's what got me into Node.js, and I think that's why I think the community around Node.js is so big, and there's this large ecosystem, because we are all web developers at core. At least there is a lot of web developers that could reuse their skills to create new kinds of code, to create APIs, and deploy application to the clones using the same skills they use to create web apps that run in the browser.
That's amazing. So so this new video series that you've both put together, and I know that you both you, Johan and Wasim, you feature very heavily on it, but there's also other people in this series as well. So it's a series of 26 different videos. I mean, where did how did you become inspired to create this beginner series?
I can speak from the beginning. Before this video series, Wasim took on the idea of creating content, and by content I mean written articles about how to get started with Node.js. And that's where we ended up writing a full set of tutorials that are on our Learn platforms. And then from these tutorials, I got the ideas that, okay, it's nice to have full-length tutorial that you can read on, that you can do experiments with when you're at home. But I've been grown, especially in these times where we all locked down. I like to wander about in my home sometimes to get my head out of the office, even if it's the same because we're at home anyways. But yeah, and having the opportunity to look at videos to learn something is something that I've been doing a lot of more recently. And I really like the format of having short videos, basically, that you can look in the morning when you take your coffee, because they're short. It's just 5 minutes. You can use it to learn new stuff everywhere. And I like this format. And I wanted to take the content that Wasim and I worked on from the article and basically move it to a different format. So you can just learn with really small videos when you have few times if you have, and even if you have specific problems to solve, you can maybe try to find one specific video that can help you.
Yeah, and they're quite cool. I mean, I can see they're all about 2 or 3 minutes, and the second one in the series is how to install on Linux, Mac OS, and then there's one for Windows. So you don't have to watch every single video in order. Is that the idea, or does it help if you watch them from 1 to 26 in order?
Do you want to answer, Wasim?
Yeah, I mean, actually, you can consume them in any different order. They've been recorded as a snackable content, like short and straight to the point. I mean, of course, you could go like in order. That would be awesome if you can follow along from the beginning to the end. However, every module is made as an independent module, so you could watch different videos from the same module. That would be fine. However, like mixing videos from different modules would be probably a bit challenging for you to follow.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if you do that. But basically, the videos are built around, as Johan said, around the Learn path that we've built, which is like a written content you can find on our Learn platform. Yeah, that one. So the same in the same manner. I mean, you could also use follow any module inside this learning path. The exercises and all the path is written in a way that you could just consume it when you want, however you want. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Cool. So that's so this is the Microsoft Learn path, and so to do this learning path, do you need to be using Microsoft Azure already for this one, or is this for anyone?
No, so that's the great thing, actually. Excuse me, Johan, I'm gonna take this one. So the first idea I had in mind, like back in February, I guess, is that we wanted our platform to provide courses or like learnings on about how to use Node.js outside of Azure. These courses are actually are like focusing on Node.js itself as a runtime, as I said, and as a technology. I mean, of course, you can combine it with Azure if you want to deploy apps or like Express or whatever you want. But the whole curriculum, both the learning path and also the video series, are around Node.js itself.
Yeah. Oh, that is absolutely cool. So I guess it's probably good to ask and actually there's one thing before I move on to that I didn't mention was we've been talking about the Node path, but there is also an introduction to JavaScript as well. So folks that haven't done that aren't familiar with JavaScript at all, I'm just trying to bring it up on the screen now. There is where is it? There it is. Yeah, there is a beginner series to JavaScript as well. So, so this is actually good if you're not familiar at all with JavaScript to watch. So someone like me actually would really benefit from this.
So that's actually a great example. So if you're like absolutely really beginner to JavaScript, or you know nothing about JavaScript and Node.js, I mean, you could start with this beginner series of videos, and then you can follow along with Node.js if you want to. And I just want to give a shout out actually to all the team members that worked hard, both on the learning the learn path for Node.js, like 5 or 6 modules, and also the video series for Node.js and JavaScript 1.1. That's like lots of people actually.
So, yeah, and I can see even just in these videos, so many different faces on the videos as well, and it's a really amazing effort.
I mean, I could name all of them, but I'm afraid like to forget some names. And
okay, so we're just going to thank your mom and your agent, and yeah, cool. So one thing I'm interested in is we want this series of Cloud Skills shows to be available for everyone, but we will have some people watching who are already using Microsoft Azure today. So do we have any particular modules or learning paths for people who are already using Microsoft Azure's cloud platform?
Want to take that one, Johan?
Sure. Yeah, we have additional learning path, and especially modules. If you want to take, for example, if you started the Node.js learning path, and if you went through the 4th module, I think, is about building a web API. Once you created the API on your laptop or on your machine, if you want to put it to the cloud, we also have other modules, of course, if you want to deploy this application to static web apps, for example, or to app services or any other service basically that we have with Microsoft Azure. So we have more content from where it came from, basically to cover additional things. And I think we can speak a bit more about static web apps later. Maybe Wasim, you want to take that?
I'm sure. As you mentioned, Johan, we have a couple of services. I mean, not a bunch of services actually. So you just mentioned a couple of them, like Azure Static Web Apps and App Services, but you also can basically deploy your Node.js backend on a Docker container or run your workload on Kubernetes on AKS, for instance. But there are like many options if you want to run JavaScript and any web content on Azure. We have like docs for that, but we also have learning modules and learning path. And yeah, just 2 seconds like to talk about Azure Static Web Apps. This is basically our latest service that allows web developers to just deploy their apps on Azure without like fiddling with the configuration or the build. So this service actually hooks into your GitHub projects, and then it would watch for your changes every time you make a commit or create a pull request. It would like build your app, deploy it and host it, and also provide a bunch of cool features like custom domains, free SSL, authentication and authorizations as well, built inside the service. So yeah, I mean, I just like summed up the whole service like 3 seconds, but there are lots of cool stuff you can do with this Azure Static Web Apps service.
I know that a lot of people were very, very excited about static web apps when that came out, and it makes a huge difference for people in terms of just people who are looking for a very simple service as well. I remember going to hackathons a lot, and I think that now with things like Azure Static Web Apps, I don't know, you a bunch of students, they just want to get a website up and running. It's like, that's just so easy.
Yeah, that's the perfect service for that. And we have like more coming actually around this service.
Cool. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Allegedly. Okay. So I think so. We are going to move on to our next session, and actually we are going to meet. We mentioned earlier in the show that we're going to meet Debbie and Anna. So first of all, we are going to bring Debbie in. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
Great, Debbie. Your video was a lot better than mine today.
So
yeah, I think you and Wasim have, obviously, yeah, it was looking fine before we started, but anyway. So anyway, great to have you on the Cloud Skills Show, and thank you for joining us. And I think that Wasim and Johan are going to ask you a bit about your journey. But first of all, would you like to introduce yourselves and tell people a bit about what you do?
Sure. So my name is Debbie O'Brien, and I'm Irish, but I live in Mallorca in a small island, so it's quite nice. And yeah, I'm a Microsoft MVP, as you can see in the background, and a Google GDE, and a Cloudinary MDE, and loads of MDEs and E's and E's. And yeah, basically, I work at Nuxt all day. So my job is to Nuxtify the world. My job is to help everyone in the world learn Nuxt so that it's easy and that there's enough resources available so that people can easily come on board and learn Nuxt and start using it in their applications. Easy job, right?
I tried to make a Next logo behind me.
Yay! I like it. I like it. It's not bad. It's the right color, so it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So, what can you just for people who aren't familiar with Nuxt? Can you tell people what Nuxt is, and what does it depend on? How does it relate to things that we've already discussed in the show?
Sure. So Nuxt is basically, like we call it, a meta framework. It's a framework on top of Vue, right? So you need to know Vue and you need to use Vue, and then we use Nuxt on top of Vue to be able to do like have extra features. So for example, like you can just put a Vue file in a pages folder and you get automatic routing without having to do anything. You get automatic code splitting without having to do anything. It just does it for you. It just works. So you get a lot of like prefetching. It's much better for performance. So you get all these extras without having to do anything, which is great. And then with Nuxt, you can also do server-side rendering. So if you have a Node.js server, you can then host a server-side rendered application on a Node server. And then you can also host like a static app. So you can use Azure Static Web Apps and you can host a static app. And you can like just host a client-side app as well. So you have those differences, and it's just one command line. So if you decide all of a sudden, I don't want to host it on my Node.js server anymore, I want to try out Azure Static Web Apps, you just change target server to target static, and then you can just put it onto Azure Static Web Apps instead of the Node.js server. So it's kind of like really cool and really easy to change from one to the other. In the commands and deployment, it tells you all about the different commands and deployments and goes through those methods and those hosting services.
May I add a question, Debbie?
Sure.
I know we just met in the lobby just before, so I don't know you very well, but we all love learning new stuff here, I think, in this show. So could you tell us how did you get started with JavaScript? What was your journey?
Yeah, so I failed many times to learn JavaScript over many, many years. Back in the day when chat systems weren't even invented, right? And you learned on a book and an email, and then like I just failed because I didn't learn very well. I kind of needed a little bit of mentoring or help. So it was 3 years ago exactly, actually, that I started I kind of said, right, I'm going to change everything because I'm working as a teacher. I'm not happy in my job. And then I was unemployable because all I had was HTML and CSS. As a front-end developer, nobody would employ me because I didn't have JavaScript. So I said, right, I'm going to give it one more try. And I'm going to say my age because it's, you know, it's important for people to know that you can change at, like, it doesn't matter. Although I look very, very young, I'm actually 41. So yeah, at about 38, I said, right, I'm going to, like, you know, throw in the towel at teaching English and I'm going to learn JavaScript. And it was very hard because I live in Mallorca, which is a beautiful island, but there's not a lot of kind of, you know, tech schools and stuff. So it's very difficult. And I found an online platform called Open Classrooms, which was absolutely fantastic because they came with a mentoring session. And yeah, you do have to pay if you're going to do the path, which is what I chose to do. But all their courses are free, which I think is incredible because like free classes, free courses are just brilliant. So like what you guys are doing and being able to have those for free is really, really, really important because not everyone has money to invest in their future, right? From there, so I did this one for like 7 months. And it was exactly, there I am on the page. So
Wow.
it's exactly, they made a video of me and everything, I know.
Awesome.
So yeah, I was the first international student to come onto that platform. It's a French company, but they decided to go international. And I was the first student, English-speaking student. So they made a video of me while I was learning, which was all basically like, you know, don't give up, don't give up. And I never, ever thought I would get a job. I really didn't think. And then when I did get my job 3 years ago, they came to Mallorca and they actually filmed me in the company, in my job, which is actually incredible. So that video goes through how I got my job and how I learned everything. So yeah, that was, I kind of did struggle though, I have to say, I will be honest. I kind of always find that one resource is never enough for me. So just doing Open Classrooms, it was brilliant, but I needed more for JavaScript. So I found Treehouse as well. And I was able to do then like the Treehouse path, and that's where I was able to learn Node Js. So I did have to pay for that as well. Their courses are not free, but they are very good. And yeah, I learned extra things like, you know, Node and at the time Gulp, right, which doesn't really exist anymore, but in the day it was important.
Yeah.
And yeah, then after that, that was it. And I think like look on my journey of how I learned is why I think it's so important to have free resources online for people to be able to just like, you know, come on board, because a lot of people are coming into tech at the moment. There's a lot of instability in the world at the moment, people's jobs, and it's a crazy times, right? And the tech is a great industry to be in, but we start, right? You come in and you go, okay, I want to work here, but what do I do? Where do I start? And I think what you've done, you guys, it looks great. So you can start off with JavaScript, move on to Node.js, and then as soon as you finish that, then you come to Nuxt.
Totally. So, by the way, how did you get into Nuxt? Tell us your story.
How did I get working in Nuxt or get involved in?
I mean, how did you know first about the Nuxt, the framework, and then how did you get a job at Nuxt?
So I was in this company, and we basically their whole system of working was crazy. Let's just say a nice word to use it. So they needed a better solution so that things would be faster, right? So we investigated frameworks. Now at the time, Vue looked amazing, right? But it was very young. It was kind of still like, you know, this is like 3 years ago, right? AngularJS was kind of a winner at the time, and that was kind of really good. And then we had React. And React was great as well, but it seemed like very hard for people to get involved and start learning because these people that were working in development needed to go straight away and just use the framework and not have to spend time learning. So the outcome and the solution was that the company decided they don't trust these frameworks. Vue looked great, but we don't trust it because there's not a big, massive company behind it. So let's build our own, you know, like, which was a stupid, crazy solution. So we built our own framework. And as soon as we built it, and it's good, and it's still in use today, right? It's not open source, but it still works. But as soon as we built it, we said, okay, now you need to migrate to Vue because seriously, this framework is, who's going to maintain it? Who's going to build on top of it? The tech industry is changing by the day. And if you're not going to constantly maintain that, you're going to be left behind. So we did build it in a way, it was all built through Node.js, and we built it in a way that it could easily just be changed like into Vue, for example, and we could easily like, you know, move it away from that. So I started it like, you know, like server-side rendering is very important to them at the time. Trying to get Vue work with server-side rendering was an issue. And that's how we found Nuxt. And Nuxt just works with server-side rendering. It just works. It's just fantastic. So once I started working with Nuxt, I kind of went, this is cool. Like, look at this. I don't want to be working on, you know, the framework that I just built. That's kind of like not really a framework. It's like a static site generator kind of thing, right? So I started kind of trying to persuade the company, and then I left that company because they just wouldn't listen to me, and I wanted to use Nuxt, right? So I went to another company that let me use Nuxt. And in that company, I was leading the tech. So I was basically deciding for the companies which, you know, where to go and what to use. And I basically chose Nuxt for every project because I just found that I could teach a team of people very, very easily. So I worked with lots of different teams, lots of different companies, and we were able to just get people involved in learning Vue and learning Nuxt in a matter of days. And then they were like, yeah, this is cool, this is easy. And then I just kept working with Nuxt all the time. I kept speaking then at conferences about Nuxt, and I was so passionate about it. I was just like, love Nuxt, right?
Speaking about learning Nuxt, because I follow you on Twitter. So guys, please follow her on Twitter. She's awesome.
Thank you.
And you recently announced like you have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
About learning Nuxt.
Yeah. It's only just started like this month. So it's very new. And I'm trying to release a video. I decided one a day, but that was kind of became quite difficult because, you know, people don't realize that 7-minute video can take 15 hours of research and work, etc. So yeah, there's I'm going to try and get at least 1, 2, 3 videos out a week, but you know, and it's like I've learned so much by just going in depth and trying to like, you know, get like data fetching in Nuxt, for example. There's 4 different ways. Like if you put it together, there's 4 different ways you can do it. And knowing which one and when to do it, etc., I think is really important to kind of like go deep into that. And so yeah, in my YouTube channels, I try and just take a topic, and again, it's short, digestible, 7 minutes, 8 minutes maximum, and it's all free, right? Which is what I think is really important. And then hopefully from there, more people will be able to come into Nuxt and, you know, learn Nuxt easier and just like, yeah, it's like my job to Nuxtify the world. So that's the best way to do it. YouTube's the place to be these days, right?
And you're doing awesome, actually. I mean, if you want to learn about Nuxt, I know where to go.
Thank you.
Like seriously.
I just need more time, right? It's just like, oh my God, I want to do so much more. And it's just like, I need time.
That is absolutely amazing. And I guess I've got a question for you, Debbie, which is sort of like, you know, related to, you know, everything that's going on in the world now. And I hope that, you know, through everything that, you know, that the sun is still shining down on you in Mallorca. I've certainly looked out the window in the UK and it's only just cleared the fog that we've had all morning. So I'm grateful at least for that. But you know, we haven't had in-person conferences or in-person meetups really anywhere in the world for you know, for I don't know, 8 months, 9 months now. It's such a long time. So you know, are you you know, are there many communities that you are working with, you know, or maybe would recommend that are online or that are, you know, that are doing cool stuff at the moment?
So in general, I used to like be involved in the meetup group here, but obviously the local stuff is just not happening. And I found I wanted to reach wider afield and not just Mallorca. And I think that's the great thing. We have to look at the positive things as well about what's happening nowadays. We can now reach countries that we were never reaching before. And, you know, people who didn't have money and weren't able to study and can now join a meetup, can now join something just once they have internet connection and a computer, right? And I think that's great. So in general, I'm very, very much involved in the Vue community. That's my biggest community, which obviously then includes the Nuxt community. And we have a lot of conferences. There's one right now. As soon as you finish like this, you can go on to like Vue Toronto. We can go to Toronto. We don't even need a flight ticket. And the conference is free. That's on right now until 11 o'clock tonight, Spanish time. So whatever time zone you're all in. And it's on tomorrow as well. It's 2 days of free conferences. And I think that's just brilliant because all the conferences are doing all these free stuff. So yeah, I like to just try and, you know, be involved in whatever community-driven conferences there are, and, you know, whatever the community needs as well. Just kind of, you know, the YouTube videos is community-based. Everything that I can do community-wise for Vue and Nuxt is what I'm interested in.
Well, Debbie, thank you so much, and that's amazing. We'll have to check out that afterwards, and maybe share the link on our social media later on this afternoon. But thank you for being with us for now, and we're going to bring Ana in, but please stay with us, and hopefully bring you back for a couple of minutes at the end. So now we're going to introduce Anna. So we'll say bye, Debbie. So there you go. And here's Anna. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
Good, good. How are you all?
Really good, really good. Thank you. Also, your video is also looking great. I think I've got the worst video today. I don't understand why 200 megabit internet and hardwired connection, but there you go. Anna, it would be great to, I hope that you, learned something interesting from the first few talks we had today. Be great to have an introduction to you and what you do for work, and then we'll talk a bit about the communities you're involved with.
Sure. So I'm Ana Cidre, and I'm a developer advocate at Auth0. So what is Auth0? Auth0 is basically a flexible drop-in solution so that you can add authentication and authorization services to your applications. If you're a beginner and watching this, that might sound a bit confusing. So I just want to point out that, when you go to an application and you have that login box, well, we offer that service basically, and you can use us to basically just put it into your application without having to code it from scratch. And what do I do as a developer advocate? In my team, we are 7 developer relations. I think 7 developer advocates, yeah. And we all kind of have a different role. We all do kind of like what we feel we need to do within the team. And my biggest strength is working with the community. So what I love to do is hear from you all, like what's missing, how can we improve as a company, or what you just want to learn, whether it's something completely different than authentication and authorization. And then I take that and try and create that for you all. So I like to listen to you and make it happen.
Awesome. Actually, I haven't, I know Anna from back in the days where we were traveling the world for conferences. You remember that?
Yeah,
like 20 years ago. Yeah, we met at different conferences, like around Angular. That's how we met, actually, thanks to Angular. And so first of all, I just want to mention that Anna recently won a marketing experimenter of the year award from Auth0. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And
it happened yesterday.
yeah, so can you tell us actually the reason why did you win that award?
So I won that award because I started at Auth0 in February, and my role when I started was purely a developer relations, a developer advocate who would go to these conferences and give talks about tech. And then what happened 1 month later, all of the conferences I planned got cancelled because the pandemic began.
Yeah.
And we had to act very quickly as a DevRel team to be able to get this content out. And I started something called Avocado Labs. It's an initiative to get very good content to people worldwide. It's also not just because of the pandemic that we're doing this, it's also because we know that when we can fly again and when we can do things, not everyone can or wants to go to conferences, so they can have this from the comfort of their own homes. That's how Avocado Labs started, and that's what I got the award for, because I kind of started this very quickly without hesitating, having to convince some people who weren't too sure about the idea. And
yeah, that's an awesome initiative, actually. And I love the design of the website and even the name Avocado.
Yeah. Yeah, for those of you who don't know about avocados, well, us developer advocates are sometimes called developer avocados, so that's where the name comes from.
Also because most of us are vegetarian. No, I was joking. So yeah, tell us about your journey. How did you get into JavaScript, actually?
Yes, so I have a background. I have a degree in fine art, and then I got a master in business economics and management. And
interesting.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go into that because it's another story. But while I was doing that master, I started working for a startup who needed help with design. And because in my fine art degree, I also learned a lot about design, I decided that I'll take on the challenge. It wasn't quite the challenge I was expecting because it was a very small startup. There was only 5 of us, and they wanted me to do application design. So I kind of simultaneously, while doing my master, started learning about application design. And I realized that I really loved this and I hated my master, but I had to finish my master because you just have to kind of finish it, right? So I finished my master. I continued being a application and web designer because then they wanted to do a website. So I got into web design. And then I realized that I was constantly having arguments with developers like, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. They were completely right. But as a newbie designer, I didn't really know that. So I decided to learn how to code. I was like, if I want to know what I can actually do, I need to learn how to code. And that's what I did. It was a crazy journey, and one of the main tools was Eloquent JavaScript. It's a book. I actually did a whole blog series. I can't remember how many days it was, but I did a chapter per day and blogged about my learnings. That blog doesn't exist anymore, so you can't go looking for it. But yeah, that's basically how I learned it. And then I also had a lot of mentoring. But I just want to mention that the most important part of my journey was actually the community. Because after learning JavaScript and started doing a few freelance projects to get better at this, I ran into the Angular community. It wasn't intentional, it was more of an accident, but it was one of those good accidents.
Yeah, definitely a good one.
And it's the community that really, really helped me get better at my skills, find new jobs, and just evolve as a developer on what I am now, a developer advocate. So.
Awesome.
Hey, Ana, I hear that you already done a lot of awesome things with Angular. Can you tell us a bit more about what's Angular and the kind of things you did with the Angular community?
Yeah, so Angular, as we've already talked about Vue, I can kind of say that it's like Vue. It is a framework on top of JavaScript, but it has a much steeper learning curve. So it is a bit more complex, but it's also written in TypeScript, which is quite nice. But yeah, it's a bit more steeper than Vue, but like I said, the power of Angular for me personally is actually the community behind it and the amount of resources and people that are willing to help. As to the community, I'm also organizer of ngSpain. So ngSpain is an Angular conference here in Spain. This year's edition was cancelled because of the pandemic. And we didn't want to go online because we know there's a lot of conferences that are out there already. And also, we weren't quite sure how to get that vibe of ngSpain online. So that was very, very tough, and we decided to postpone it for next year, even though it was going to be in Malaga. We were looking at places right next to the beach, and hopefully in 2021, we can make this happen.
I will definitely reply next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
We would love to have you.
So besides ngSpain, what other activities or community stuff you're doing? Because I heard you're doing a lot of stuff for Angular.
Yeah, I'm also part of this side, NG Girls.
Yeah.
So I'm not part of the team, but I do try to help them and advocate for them because they're doing such an amazing job. NG Girls is for people who are starting to learn Angular, for women who want to learn Angular. It's a safe space. Obviously, right now it's a bit more complicated because these were in-person events and you'd have a mentor. It would be a whole day event. And it would be like a deep dive into Angular with lots of help and lots of resources. I know some communities are actually doing it online now, which is cool, but I guess it's not the same vibe. I'm not sure. I haven't done an online one, so I can't say. And it's a really cool initiative by Shmuela, Robert, Revital. Yes, there they all are.
Yeah, Martina as well.
Martina.
Yeah, lots of great people.
All amazing people. We love Shmuela.
Yeah,
Well, we love everyone, but with Shmuela, because Shmuela's inside Microsoft, so
Yeah, Shmuela is actually on our team.
Yeah, and she actually, I have to say, I knew what Angular was because Shmuela took the time to explain it to me, and then I attended the Angular Connect conference last year, and Johan and Wasim, you were there, and great fun, really kind community as well. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, talking about good conferences, I do have to give a big shout out to NG Vikings there, because that is one amazing conference.
Yep.
And Sherry List is behind that, so a big shout out to her too.
Sherry List, Chris Norin, Maxim Salnikov, and you as well, Anna.
And there's Shmuela again on
Yep.
the picture. She's every. No, that's great. That one as well. I haven't been, but sometime next year.
Hopefully.
Cool. So I mean, it's been, you know what, actually, I think for communities across the board, it's been a difficult year, hasn't it? And you know, these are really kind communities of people that really care. And you know, I know a lot of not everyone's been able to continue online this year, but there have been some great resources for people, and I think people have put a lot of passion into their work as well. And you know, I'm actually gonna just add Debbie back in briefly. Hello, Debbie, because I know Debbie, you were like running an online event that was like 8 hours long or something like that, a training yesterday. You were just telling me about it before.
I was in Canada last night for 8 hours in a Zoom room, and it was the first time I've ever done an online workshop, and I was very worried about, you know, how's it going to go, etc. And I really enjoyed it. And the people did too, because they told me, right? I'm not just making it up. But we had a very small group, and I think that really helped. There was 8 people and then me. And then I was able to use like breakout rooms and put them into different rooms. So they were able to do pair programming together. And then I just like virtually jump into that room. And actually at the end of it, I actually forgot that we weren't in the same place. And we actually just sat there and drank beers at the end as well, which was really nice. And I don't know, it was actually a good experience, and I'm going to do more of them. I'm definitely going to do more online workshops. I think once they're more interactive and less kind of like, there's a lot of live streaming going on, and I love doing live streams, but I think a workshop needs a facial. It needs someone who's able to speak physically, put their hand up and be more involved.
That's actually the most challenging part of doing like virtual workshops. And
Yeah, I did one recently, but there was just too many people. We were 100 in the workshop. And we were like...
That's really great for a virtual event, actually.
Yeah, but hard to manage.
Yeah.
I think we need to make them smaller and more of them. I think that's the best way if you're going to give like that attention. Otherwise, make it a live stream or a webinar type style, and then like have 100 people, but then it's a different type of, you know.
Or like do it like on like live on Twitch or something like that, so you can interact with folks live.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always difficult, isn't it, to have that sort of, you know, that dynamic. And I think, you know, one way is quite, it's not easy, but it's possible. And having that dynamic thing, I think absolutely right. You know, smaller groups, but but you know, just great that this stuff's happening. And Debbie, you were mentioning Vue Toronto earlier, and so you gave me the link. Thank you very much. So there it is on screen, and we'll put it in the resources at the end. So cool. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to just have a quick video of about 2 minutes, and then we're going to be back, and we're going to ask a couple of quick fire questions when we come back. See you in a moment.
What is JavaScript? Hey folks, my name is Burke Holland, and in this video, we're going to take a look at what JavaScript is, why you should learn it, and where you can use it. JavaScript is a programming language, and this is its logo. It was originally created as the programming language that you would use to interact with elements on a web page in a browser. These are things like adding a click event to a button or changing a style with code. Now, even though it's called JavaScript, it has nothing to do with Java, but it is a C-based language, so it kind of looks like Java. but that's where the similarities between the two languages end. JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, which means that you don't need to tell it what types your variables are. It can figure that out on its own. For instance, if you told JavaScript x equals 0, JavaScript can figure out that x is a number by looking at the 0. And lastly, JavaScript is compiled just in time. And what that means is that you don't have to compile it or build it beforehand to run it. You just run it, and it works. Now, there are a lot of programming languages out there, so why learn JavaScript? Well, this guy named Jeff Atwood once said that anything that can be written in JavaScript will eventually be written in JavaScript. Now, what did he mean by that? I have no idea. But what I do know is that JavaScript is everywhere. It's in the browser, and browsers have come a long way in the last 5 years into fully fledged application development runtimes. They used to be for viewing just documents on the web. They're now for applications as well. And you can build rich, immersive application experiences in the browser that look just like desktop applications. JavaScript is on the server with something called Node Js. So anything that you can do with C# or Java on the server, you can do with JavaScript as well, like reading and writing files or interacting with a database. You can do that. And lastly, JavaScript is for native applications. Now, these are applications that you would install from an app store on your phone or on the desktop. And this is enabled by open source frameworks maintained by companies such as Facebook and even Microsoft. According to a 2019 Stack Overflow developer survey, JavaScript is the #1 most used programming language in the world. So why should you learn it? Because everyone is using it. And what do we mean by everyone? Well, all those huge websites that you love so much, your favorite social media networks and your favorite e-commerce sites, all using JavaScript. JavaScript powers the web. Huge enterprises and consumer companies that we can't mention for various legal reasons are using JavaScript and building applications that you use right now with JavaScript. And even some of the favorite tools that you're probably using right now, like VS Code or Slack, those things are written in JavaScript. In summary, JavaScript is a programming language that can be used just about anywhere to build just about anything.
Okay, so we were just saying backstage, what an amazing video! We love that video, and that was actually the introduction to JavaScript. So that was the other set of videos, and as I said, the link will be on after the show on our resource page, and I'm going to put the link up for that. There you go. It's and we'll share it again at the end. So
I could listen to Burke all day. He's so much fun.
Oh, he is just amazing. I mean,
So
he is. I want to know how much editing he did, but he's great. He is probably the person I miss most from conferences, not from just doing the talks, but actually, from being on the stand and having that wonderful sarcasm that that British people love so much. He's the most sarcastic American I've ever met. But
So
we love you, Burke.
I should mention, that he's on our team, on JavaScript team. We work every day with him, and I want publicly say that I love this guy. I love working with him every day. Really, like seriously, Burke.
So what we need to do is work out what time is it in Tennessee right now. Is it like 8 a.m.? Is that too early to get him onto one of these shows? I think we're working on it. That means we have to do another JavaScript show soon. So anyway, so I thought that we would finish up with just a couple of questions. So the first one is what's the next tech conference or event that you are going to attend? And we'll go in the order that people appear on screen. So go to Wasim first.
I'm gonna be speaking about Azure Static Web Apps at a conference called Front End Con, organized in Poland. And just before, actually, I'm gonna be at NG Poland talking about compilers.
Nice. Johan?
As for me, I think my next talk is talking about progressive web apps in the Update conference that should have happened in Prague, but will be virtual now.
Amazing. And Debbie?
So I'm flying on a virtual plane after this, and I'm going to Toronto for a VueConf Toronto. And yeah, I'm speaking tomorrow. So if you do want to know anything about Nuxt, if you've never heard of it, you can hear all the talks about Nuxt. We've got 3 talks about Nuxt on that tomorrow. So I'll be speaking tomorrow, and it's on today as well. So yeah.
I love it. And Anna.
So I'm going to be joining Wasim at NG Poland. I'll be talking about web components with authentication, but we're also giving a workshop the 18th, on a free workshop on Auth0 and Angular. And we'll also be having a booth. Spoiler alert, we will be having a happy hour, so bring your drinks to the booth.
Wow, I love it. I miss happy hour. What's that? What is that mug? What is that mug, Wasim?
So today,
We can't see. We can't see.
I'm in Madrid.
Oh, Madrid. I love that.
I have a collection of like 30 mugs from Starbucks.
We need more swag. I miss swag.
Yeah.
I have this swag. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
This is like one of my favorite ones. It's the French bit.
Where is the
Eiffel
baguette?
Tower.
Where is the baguette?
Where is the baguette? The baguette and the garlic and what other stereotypes can we wheel out?
It's the only sticker I don't have in my collection.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, do you know what? We actually, I'd love to ask more questions, but we're actually out of time, and I've really enjoyed today's show, and I hope that everyone that's watching has enjoyed it. Maybe not enjoyed seeing my video jump all over the place, but thank you for bearing with us. I will say, like, one last time, we will share all of the links from today on this page. I just want to close out by saying final thank you to everyone. So first of all, thank you to Wasim.
Thank you.
Thank you, and to Johan as well.
Thank you.
Merci. Thank you to Debbie.
Thank you.
And finally, thank you to Anna as well.
Thanks
and
for having me.
We really appreciate you being part of today's show. And we will be back next week. Now, next week we are going to be talking all about big data. So what is big data? It's one of those phrases, isn't it? Big data, like what's it even mean? Yeah, it's like big and it's data. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to hear about a little bit about some of the learning paths. We're going to hear about something called Cloud Adoption Framework. We're going to hear from some of our communities as well. And we're going to hear about some of the things that are actually still in preview, like Azure Synapse as well. So some exciting stuff there. So please join us at the same time. We will not be on Learn TV next week. So watch on one of the many other platforms that we are on. We are on like Microsoft Developer Twitch. We're on Twitter, YouTube. We're in loads of different places. So look out for us next week. And but keep watching Learn TV in the meantime. We're off air next week because Learn TV is showing .NET Conf. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us today, and thank you to all of the speakers. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.